What is memory? Why do we forget something? Why do we forget anything? How much do we remember after we've learned something? If you just learned something, will you remember? What percentage 20 minutes later? What percentage will you remember 1 hour later, 1 day later, 6 days later, 31 days later? What is the percentage that you will remember? If you wanted to relearn information that you learned last month, how long would it take you to relearn information that you once knew? These are all fascinating questions. And these are all questions that were answered, believe it or not, in the late 1800s by a man named Hermann Ebbinghaus. Ebbinghaus was a German psychologist, and he was a pioneer in the field of memory and memory research. He was actually one of the first scientists to do controlled memory experiments. He introduced a concept of measuring memory, and what I just said a minute ago of how much will you remember 20 minutes later, 1 hour later, 1 day later, he measured this by percentages and came up with exact numbers. And he not only did that, he went deeper and discovered why that happened. And that's what we're going to talk about in this video. He introduced something called the forgetting curve. So he introduced this quantitative measuring of memory, where he did these experiments and then he measured them so that with exact numbers. He actually introduced a mathematical model of forgetting. Let me say that again. He introduced a mathematical model of forgetting. His research was the foundation for modern cognitive psychology. By the way, my name's Ron White. I'm a two-time USA memory champion. I used to hold the record for the fastest to memorize a deck of cards in the United States. I've been training and practicing memory for over 3 decades. Not knowing it, I, on my own, ran across some of this similar information in my own work and came to similar conclusions, but I did not have any research on it. And when I saw that there was actually research on this in the late 1800s by Hermann Ebbinghaus, I got so excited. Hey, real quick here, we'll get back to the video in a second. If you're enjoying this video on why you forget and how to fix it, you're really gonna love my program on how to remember anything better. If you're a business person and you wanna remember more to create more business for yourself, or if you're a student who wants to remember your test and ace your exams and study easier, either way, click the link down below and get my How to Remember Anything program, my Recall Under Pressure program. And now let's get back to this video on how to fix why you forget. In 1855, Hermann Ebbinghaus actually wrote a book, and it was in German, but translated, the title of the book is About Memory. And in this book, he discusses his groundbreaking research of the forgetting curve. Here's what the forgetting curve says. The forgetting curve says that after you learn something, what you remember drops off rapidly. In other words, what you forget, boom, drops off. It drops off the most rapid right after you learned information. And then after time has gone on, it continues to drop off, but eventually it levels off and you're left with a base of information, a base knowledge of the subject. He found out, and what he really discovered, and it's so true, he discovered that without review, most people forget quickly. Let me say that again. If you're a student and you're studying for a test, when you walk out of that classroom 20 minutes later, Ebbinghaus says you're only going to remember 58% of what you just learned. Imagine that. You've just walked out of the classroom. It's only been 20 minutes. 42% of the information is gone. Boom, just like that. Without review, most everyone forgets. As a memory champion, people will say to me, Ron, I just read this book last month, but I can't remember any of it. And I will ask them, did you review? They say, no, I didn't review. I said, well, even a memory champion, if they don't review, they're going to forget the information. Here's the chart. Here are the numbers, what Ebbinghaus said. He said that 20 minutes after you learn something, you will have a savings, a retention of 58% of the material. If you wanted to relearn that same information that you just had learned, let's say it took you 1 hour to learn it originally, you would not have to spend a full hour to learn it again. You would have to spend 42% of an hour to relearn it. So if you've got some information in there that took you an hour to learn and 20 minutes later you want to relearn it, you don't have to spend the entire hour again. You just have to spend 42% of an hour. This was what he determined the relearning percentage. Now, after 1 hour of remembering something with no review, if you do not review the information, you will only remember 44% of the information. 1 hour after learning something, only 44% of the information. If you wanted to relearn that same information, it would take you 56% of the time. So if it took you an hour to learn it originally, now it's going to take you 56% of an hour. 9 hours later, you will only remember 36% of the information. But if you want to relearn it, do you see how the relearning time goes up? It's going to take you 64% of the time it took you to learn it originally. 1 day later, you will remember 34% of the information. 31 days later, you will only remember 21% of the information, and it'll take you 79% of the original time to relearn it. Woo! Man! This is good news, but it's bad news. Here, let me give you the good news first. And I want to give you some good news. When you learn something, the information does not disappear out of your memory. How do we know that? Because this research proved it. If it only takes you a percentage of the original time to relearn the information, what does that prove? That proves that the information is still in your memory. It's what Ebbinghaus determined was a savings. You still have it in there. You're just no longer able to retrieve it. And we call this retrieving forgetting, but you're not really forgetting it. It's still in your memory. You're not dealing with a forgetting problem. You're dealing with an interference problem, or trouble retrieving it, or it's just a natural decay of information. By the way, you say, well, Ron, how did he measure this? What were his studies like? So what Ebbinghaus was very aware of, he had to do memory experiments. But what he was very aware of, if he tried to memorize a poem or a quote or history information or any type of information, the information made sense, so there was context to it. So if he was aware of the subject matter, or if as he read it, if he was able to, his brain was able to make sense of it, it wasn't pure memory. So he needed to make something pure memory, where there was nonsensical syllables. So what he decided upon was to get 3-letter syllables, like DAC, or box, or yat, or cove. And he would take these nonsensical syllables, just strings of nonsensical symbols, and he would memorize them. That way he knew this was pure memory, because this information did not make sense. And then he would measure. 20 minutes later, he would see how much he could recall. 1 hour later, he would see how much he could recall, and so on. And that's how he created the forgetting curve. And then when he wanted to relearn the information, he measured how long it would take him to relearn the information. This research conclusively proved that when you learn something, the information is still there. It also conclusively proved that memory drops off rapidly after you learn something. Now, I mentioned to you that I'm a memory champion, and I stumbled across this in my own work. Let me tell you about a memory project I did. It's the largest memory project of my life. I'm a veteran of the war in Afghanistan. I was in Afghanistan in 2007, and I was just so overwhelmed with the loss of life in any war. And so when I got back from the war in Afghanistan, I wanted to pay tribute to the men and women who were in the United States military who lost their lives. Why the United States military? Because that's what I served in. So we lost 2,400 in Afghanistan. I memorized these 2,400 fallen soldiers in the order of their death, right? First name, last name. It's over 7,500 words. In essence, these were nonsensical, like Ebbinghaus's experiment, and they were nonsensical in this. You might have somebody named Robert Smith, and then the next guy is Brian McMahon, and the next name is Jason Deutsch, and the next name is Kyle Wilson. There's no flow to it. There's no rhyme or reason why the next name is the next name and this name is that name. So it was actually very close to Hermann Ebbinghaus's experiment, with the difference that mine were actual names that I had probably heard before. But do you know what I found out? And this was so groundbreaking for me. And I did not learn about Ebbinghaus until 7 or 8 years later. But as I was memorizing, when I set out on the project, I was asked to estimate how long it would take me to memorize. It ended up taking me 10.5 months. I estimated it would take me 3 months. What was my mistake? My mistake was in my calculations that I was not aware of the forgetting curve. I was not aware of how much time I would have to spend reviewing. In other words, I would memorize the first 50. And then the next day, before I added the next 50, I had to review the first 50. And then the third day, before I memorized that 50, I had to review the previous 100. So you can imagine this. When I'm up to the 1500s in the names, I'm having to review. I didn't always go back and review 1 to 1500, but I would definitely review the 2 or 3 or 400 prior to that. I would spend sometimes days and weeks just reviewing. Think of memory like this. Think of memory like a grass path. And as you walk down that grass path, if you keep walking down that path over and over again, that grass path just becomes dirt and a very clear path. But if you stop walking on that grass path for maybe a month or so, then you return, there's things that have grown up and the path isn't so clear. The memory is the exact same way. If you don't constantly go back and review, then what you're going to find happen is on that grass path in your mind, it's going to get cloudy. Things are going to interfere with your Ebbinghaus didn't actually discover the science of it because he didn't have access to the research. But today we now know that when you memorize something, when you learn something, it's not just an abstract thing in your mind. It is an actual physical location. Let me say that again. You learn information, new neural connections are made in your brain. There are actually physical and chemical changes in your brain when you learn something. And there's neural connections where the neurons talk to each other. And the more you review, the more you strengthen those neural connections. The less you review, the more weeds grow on that and the weaker that it gets. But it's an actual physical place in your memory. It's an actual physical place. A memory is. It's not just, there's actually a spot in your brain where the information you learn in this YouTube video is going to be created in your brain, an actual physical change. Now, why do we forget? What happens when we forget? We forget primarily due to 3 reasons. Number 1 is decay. Now, decay means these memory traces weaken. That's the decay of the path, right? The grass path that got weakened. It is these real chemical and biological changes in your brain, structural changes. They don't get to be strong enough if you don't review. So the decay happens. So the first reason we forget is decay. The second reason we forget is interference. Now here's something really important to understand. When you learn something, when something is in your memory, and then you learn something new, it doesn't override it. You're not erasing that old memory. It's just traded beside it, if you want to say. Let's take the Spanish word for cat. It's gato. Well, the Italian word is I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's kind of similar to gatto, but it's with 2 T's, right? So when you are trying to retrieve this information, there's a little bit of interference going on in your brain because they're so similarly related. Your brain is like, oh my gosh, which one is it? The gatto in Italian did not overwrite. Your brain does not erase old information and write over new information. But when the information is somewhat similar, it can cause interference. People always ask me, I use a technique known as the mind palace or the memory palace, where you take what you want to memorize and you visualize it around a room. People often ask me, they say, Ron, if my number 1 location is a window and the word I want to remember is money, I imagine money flying out of the window. And then if my number 2 piece of furniture is a chair and I want to remember time, I'll imagine a clock over there. And then so on throughout the house, you can remember hundreds of informations that way. It's called the mind palace. There's plenty of videos that I've done on that. But people always ask me, can I reuse this mind palace, these same locations? And my answer is this: as long as the data you're memorizing is not too similar to what you previously memorized, you can reuse the locations with absolutely no problem. But if it's very similar, like gatto and gatto, you need to use different locations because there's going to be interference in your memory because they are so similar. It would be like if you had a file cabinet and you had 10 files named report. And then you were trying to retrieve your 10 files named report, but you were looking for a specific report. You would have all these other interfering. You would probably eventually get to the information, but it's going to take you a lot longer. So the first reason we forget is decay. It's just you didn't review it enough. The second reason we forget is interference. It was too similar to something, and your brain is just, you're trying to retrieve it. It's still there. That new memory didn't erase the old memory, but it is interfering with the retrieval. The third reason we we forget is really just pure retrieval, where you're missing the cues. It's on the tip of your tongue, but you can't remember it. But if you had a cue, you could get it back. Here's an example of that. You walk into a room to get something and you can't remember what you walked into the room to get. Go back to the previous room. Sit in the same chair you were sitting in the previous room and look around the room. Those cues often will bring it out of your memory. Or something's on the tip of your tongue. You're talking to a friend and then they say something and it throws you off track, and then you're like, oh, I was going to say something. I can't remember what I was going to say. What do you and your friend do? You and your friend then instinctively begin looking for cues that will pull it out of your memory. They would say, okay, what did we talk about? Okay, we talked about this, and then before that we talked about this, and before that we talked about this. Oh, yeah, I remember what I was going to say now. What did you do? You found the cues, and those cues were able to bring it out of your memory. What does this prove? This proves Ebbinghaus's work. Ebbinghaus's work says that when you learn something, it stays in your brain. It was almost like a bank account. You have a savings account, and that is in there. When you first learn the information, that savings account begins to drop what you're going to remember. But over time, it'll level off. Today, as I am relearning the Afghanistan wall, the project I told you about earlier, I haven't written that wall out from memory in 4 years. I'm currently relearning the information. It took me 10 and a half months to learn it the first time. I'm estimating it will take me about 2 months to relearn the information. So 20% of the time that it took to learn it originally. And that's because I have this savings. Now, you may say, well, Ebbinghaus said that if you don't touch something for a long time, it's going to take you way more than just 20% of the time. Well, this is an exception, and here's the exception. Because I spent so much time years ago reviewing it. I learned it in 2012, and for the next 8 years, I reviewed it constantly. So that reduced my amount of time I have to spend to relearn it. My savings was greater. The more you review, the greater the savings. Now, how do we stop forgetting? Well, you have to make your memories distinct. You have to make them vivid. You have to make them clear, and you must review. Ebbinghaus introduced an idea of spaced repetition, and without going too much into detail on spaced repetition, because that's in an entirely new video, you need to review the day you learned something. Review the night you learned it. The next day when you wake up, when you're brushing your teeth, getting ready, review what you learned the day before. Before you learn new information, if it's on the same topic, review. Review. Keep those neural pathways, those engrams strong. Keep the weeds off the grass path of your memory. If you enjoyed this video, I would appreciate you commenting down below and let me know how you experience forgetting and what are some things that can help you. Also, I'm going to put some suggested videos up, I think, in this that you can watch next. And if you like this, maybe you're going to want to get more of my videos so you know what to do. I'll see you on the next video.